because we all have that ability to rise in each of those areas, right? It's not like anyone's ever maxed out with their fitness and with being a father, with being a husband, with creating a dent in their community, right? There's all these different areas that you can be excelling at, but you can also recognize, hey, there's more that you can do. And most of the time, when you're having these other areas be quite, at like a peak level, sometimes you let those other areas slip. And if you're not having that happen, well, maybe you're not doing enough. Maybe you have your standards much lower than they really should be. And that's where the demand more comes in. Demand more from yourself. Or, hey, you're doing all the work, but you're not getting that result you're looking for, whether it's in your business. Hey, I'm working my ass off, but I'm not able to pay my mortgage. Or, hey, I'm trying to connect with my wife, but I just can't get her to see what I see or to accept me for who I am and love the parts that are actually very good. Whatever area that is, right? Demand the thing that you truly do want and that you're capable of. Demand that you become that guy who's able to actually step up to that plate. Expect nothing less.
Welcome, everybody, to the 38th episode of the TRU-U podcast. Today, we are blessed to have Ken Conklin on with us, and we are located in the beautiful Marina del Rey area in California with the lovely view of the dock.
I don't know if they'll be able to see the boats, but usually there's some sailboats going by, and then lots of cranes. Actually, this morning I heard a seal. You don't hear seals too often, but I heard a seal doing his little whatever sound that they make. Mating call.
I haven't seen one down here yet. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But regardless, we're blessed to be here. We're excited to be here. And we're excited to talk to you today, Ken, about your vision. I met you recently, and we were speaking on your vision behind your Gravel to Castle, and that's a project you've been working on for quite a while now.
So it's been a business for the past 5 years. However, for the first 3.5, maybe 4 years, it was a marketing business for small businesses. And that was a super valuable skill set to have, but that wasn't my long-term thing. It was kind of just like, okay, I have this skill set that I can offer as a service, and I was doing that for a while. But I knew that my long-term approach to just leaving a dent in the universe was going to be a little bit different. I just didn't have that clarity yet, nor the understanding or even just the capacity to lead people in the way that I am working towards being able to do.
Yeah. It's and for some context for the folks, tell us a bit about the vision just overall behind Gravel to Castle.
Yeah, so Gravel to Castle is essentially a belief system and daily game of human optimization designed specifically for businessmen. And our mission is to help set the tone for the next generation by creating strong, honorable, and high-value businessmen who are actually capable of leading not only their teams, clients, families, and community, but also creating a real dent in the universe. And our approach to enabling these guys to be able to do this is by really just having them look at themselves in the mirror and go through a process that has them audit every single area of their life, from their business to how they're showing up with training their body. So that way it's support mechanism for their brain that actually continues working for a long time from now, along with how they're showing up as a husband, as a father, all these different areas that are all important. I think most intellectual and just reasonable people would agree, but there's not a lot of places where you can find a tailored process specifically for this type of group, where you really understand their pains, their desires. And all of this stemmed from basically just me looking at myself in the mirror and realizing, okay, when I go through a breakup or when I would have those moments where it's like life's a roller coaster, right? You have those moments where things are going very well, and then all of a sudden maybe something happens, or just over time you start going downhill. We teach that there is either dramatic or traumatic experiences that typically cause someone to kind of go down a negative slope in their life. And those can be either breakups or, someone says something to you that is kind of embarrassing or whatever, but it's true. And, that's where a dramatic experience would come. Whatever those situations are that shake you out of apathy, you don't want to have to rely on those bad times to come for you to then make a change in your life. Our process is designed to essentially get people to look at the reality of where they're at. And most of the time, it's uncomfortable truths that aren't pleasant to look at. But what that does is it enables you to course correct and be able to pay attention and see patterns of, oh, shoot, I'm heading in this direction.
Yeah.
I want to avoid the negative consequences of continuing down this path the same way.
It reminds me of being proactive rather than reactive. Instead of waiting until something happens where you need to change, you're addressing it and you're forward thinking.
The
right?
word that we use is intentionality.
Okay.
So it's being intentional with, one, not only what you want, but then two, how you're operating in order to acquire what you want in every area, right? With how you want to be as a dad, how you want to be as a husband, a business owner, even just a man that is able to enjoy his life,
Yeah.
outside of those areas.
Yeah. What, your journey being from, well, tell us about your journey prior to creating this and what inspired this in the beginning.
Yeah, well, so I just turned 24 now.
Yeah.
It's crazy because, I understand that that's young age, but it's also not. Meaning, I remember being 18 years old. I remember what was going through my mind at that time period. I kind of just realized this in the past week. I've always kind of known it, but I've finally decided like this is something I truly believe. Is I'm not too happy with the way I grew up. I had a loving mother and a loving father, and they're awesome, right? They did a lot for me, which I'm super appreciative for. However, what I think is important to instill in, people growing up, especially just young men, they taught me things about being a good person, right? And I went to a school where they instilled the value. There were multiple ones, but one of them that always stuck with me was be a man for others. So that truly has been part of my journey and kind of how I want to go about living my life is be a man who actually does contribute to society. And so when it comes to like how I grew up and like why I'm not super satisfied, which I think a lot of people can relate, is I felt like I had to start looking at myself at the age of 18. And I think most people do at the same time, but I didn't have maybe that foundation that some people that I think would have the ideal father figure that I'm kind of thinking of, where they would teach them maybe small skills of just how to get your hands dirty or how to toughen yourself and be ready for the challenges that come at you in life. My mom and my dad love me. They're awesome. But my mom always instilled in my mind, oh, Ken's very shy. Ken's very sensitive. And I grew up mostly with my mother. And so I didn't have someone saying, hey, you're a tough, bad motherfucker, but you're this because you do these hard things. And doing those hard things would require you to actually do them, right? So instead of having, a dad who's like, hey, I need you to go do football. And of course, people can be disagreeing with this stuff, but it was almost like he would say, hey, you should try this maybe, but then I wouldn't be interested in it. And he wouldn't necessarily push me towards those things. And I know that some people, especially in today's day and age, right? Like the whole conversation about like, oh, how can you let your kid decide what sex they are? Like there's all these different things that I don't pay attention to too much, but I did read online today. Like Demi Lovato had a comment about not having gender reveal parties or something like that. And it just like, it just goes into the conversation of how I think I have a very conservative viewpoint on, I think you should kind of tell your kid, at least I'm thinking about like just like what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a young man, kind of what makes a man, not in today's, viewpoint that's politically correct, but things of like, hey, being a man requires you to be a leader, to be intellectual, to be able to control your emotions, to be a man for others, right? To always want to hear other people's sides and ponder them and contemplate, okay, is this true or not? But then be able to stand firm in your beliefs. And I just think that there's a way for people to actually incorporate those values and actually live them on a daily basis. That's what our whole business is. But I wish that I would have been introduced to this stuff beforehand. But then again, I wouldn't have been on this journey.
Where do you think the biggest gaps are in society when it comes to, I mean, your vision of transforming these people and building a better overall, space and people, be able to become better people through Gravel the Castle? What do you feel like are the biggest gaps? Like, what are the biggest, like current reality to where we want to be? What areas are there that need the most focus?
Yeah, people need to be able to lead themselves before they can lead other people. Mm-hmm. And I'd say from age 18 to 21, I always wanted to lead other people before I could really lead myself. Mm-hmm. And I had good intentions. I always wanted to do things. I don't even want to say do things right, because I kind of disagree with that now. I guess maybe I would always look for shortcuts, like how can I get to this point the fastest?
It starts within, right? You have to start within. Before you can help somebody else, you have to help yourself.
Yes, 100%. And I would always, I always had that kind of self-improvement mindset of, hey, I'm going to go be disciplined, go to the gym. I enjoyed it, so it wasn't really disciplined, right? I always wanted to do good in the world, like volunteering, something that I do now, not super frequently, but here and there. And I would do things a little bit, up to this point as well. But being able to actually control your mind or control your emotions, those are things that are very difficult to do. Yeah. And I always struggled with it. And I felt that I didn't have the path, so it's not like I wasn't willing to do the work, but I guess I realized I had to finally take that time to be in the shadows to develop the process before I could actually come to a place to describe it,
I love that. What are disciplines or pieces that go into that controlling your mind piece? What do you feel like goes into that space?
Yeah, so for the past, I'd say 2 years, I would do these cold showers for 30 days, and those were great. However, that was kind of just a protocol for getting myself back on point. Mm-hmm. Versus now, I realize every single day is your opportunity to sharpen your sword. Mm-hmm. And the word opportunity almost sounds like, it's an option to do so to get ahead. But in the reality, it's not just to get ahead, it's to stay sharp, right? Mm-hmm. It's to be able to go on the battlefield, go to war with yourself, in your business, whatever area of life that you need to be strong and collected and reserved. Doing these simple things that I have our clients do inside our program, such as taking cold showers or assessing how you showed up in each area of your life, actually writing down how much cash I collected today, what seed did I plant in my business today, all these different things that require you to have an actual number or a thing you can check off your list.
Intentionality thing that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, these are all things that are leading a person to be able to master that intentionality. Yeah. And again, I didn't have this process before. It's taken me about a year to develop what it is right now. Obviously, it's taken me my whole life to come to this point, but a real year of hey, hold off on marketing. Still take clients through it because I need bring cash flow to move this movement forward. But instead of actually going out in the marketplace being hey, I have this product that I'm building that's going to be great, actually waiting until it's something that I'm hey, this is the fucking best thing in the industry. Yeah. I've gone through so many people's programs. There's so many great people out there. Yeah. So again, I can't just say I've been this genius who's come up with everything on my own, because that's not the reality, right? Yeah. We all have different people influence or open up our mind to certain ways of thinking and viewing things that enable us to come up with things. Yeah. But I've gone out and purposely put myself in either environments where there are the people around me that had what I wanted.
Association comes up all the time in this space, and I think consistently plugging into those different spaces you're talking about, just seeing what's available and just consistently just putting yourself out there in some way. How can I grow today? Mm-hmm. That question, how can I grow today?
Yeah.
And I love how you mentioned, sharpen the sword. What can we do today to sharpen the sword? I really enjoy the sharpening the sword piece, and I feel for me at least, it's how can I like the cold shower thing, 'cause it gets you, whenever I did that before, it threw me into a mode of like, all right, and I know there's health benefits to it too, but what it did is it's like going to the gym. It's one of those little actions that you can take that can get you, right? So
It's about doing those things that you don't want to do, but
yeah,
you just like intentionality
yeah,
to me means all logical
yeah,
decisions.
yeah,
No emotion influences that. So that's why motivation, that's a feeling,
yeah,
right? You're like, oh, I want to do this.
yeah,
But versus discipline is like, hey, I do this no matter what.
yeah. Is there like, do you start out your day with those? I like to get just the ball rolling with something like that. Pain in the ass, whether uncomfortable phone call, workout, cold shower, whatever it is, but just let's go.
So we have our daily protocols, and then inside of phase 1, which is master intentionality, that is our 30-day challenge. So when a man comes into Gravel Castle, he first has to basically prove himself that he's about all this. And this kind of also stemmed from me realizing like, hey, I'm tired of people. Like, so one of our core values, stick to the plan, that really is all about being a person of your word. And the word honorable, which is one of the 3 words that we have for our kind of slogan, creating strong, honorable, and high-value businessmen. Mm-hmm. These were all things that I just got so fed up of other people not living by that I thought were super important to, be a good person, to be an honorable person, right? But then also made me realize, all right, if I think this is what the ideal businessman, that strong, honorable, and high value looks like, well, then I need to embody all of those characteristics, and maybe even on an extreme level, to where maybe not everyone needs to live it as intensely as I do, but I can at least be that anchor that pulls someone away from their kind of, I don't know what the right word would be, but like, say like on the other end of the spectrum that is not what they want, then they know that, they recognize, say, I need to change something and improve. I'll be that guy that, brings them over a lot, and maybe they don't want to be all the way on this side, but now they're going to be able to move closer towards that. And if they're psycho like me and they want to go to the extreme with it, they're welcome to.
Yeah. What's the extreme? When I think of extreme, I think of discovery. I think of like your awareness of what your limits are gets expanded. What's extreme mean to you?
So I guess extreme really isn't. Extreme almost sounds like it can be negative, right?
Yeah.
So
it's quite the word. It's a powerful word.
It is. I don't really think anything I do is extreme, but more so an example of ruthless commitment.
That's beautiful.
Being someone who is like, hey, this is what I said I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And we actually have a phrase for this. It's being a non-conditional man. It's someone that performs in any environment and puts numbers on the board. So this can be with your workouts, a man who goes into his gym or goes on the run, goes biking, or whatever the exercise is, and puts numbers on the board, performs, and makes that progress that he's looking to make. Mm-hmm. In the business world, it's going and making those sales, no matter how many no's you get, or how maybe chaotic your workday is, or how many fires you have to put out with your team or with your clients, whatever it is. Being that person that goes, hey, I show up in any environment. This could also be, hey, you go home and your daughter had a bad day and now she's upset about something, so that you need to be there, be present, be able to connect with her and be that emotional kind of maybe pillow for her. While also your wife's upset with you for showing up 2 hours later than you're supposed to, because you committed to showing up at the house at 6:30 every night, but now you're showing up around 8.
I like how you mentioned the logic versus emotion piece too, because oftentimes emotions are what's going to test us and test our ruthless commitment or what we're seeking to do. And if we get caught up in those, then it can sway you. And it's like, and I don't know who said, I think it was Judah Smith at Church Home actually that said it, but like there's never been a great decision based out of emotion. So it comes from logic. It's like you need to center yourself, ground yourself almost. It's like
where emotions come into the picture is, again, like inside of our 30-day challenge, which is the phase 1, lay the foundation, master intentionality. We take time to look at what we truly want, and that's where we get in touch with our heart. So we aren't emotionless people. We're just simply people who don't act on emotion, where we have our logic be aligned with what our soul is telling us. Hey, I really want this in my life. This is what I value most. These are the people I care about most.
Yeah.
You take that time to look at what you truly want emotionally.
Yeah.
So that becomes your compass.
Yeah.
But then in performing,
you don't act out of it, right? It can help steer you, but you don't want to act out of it.
you allow that continuous push to be the thing that is more logical, that enables you to just do things no matter how uncomfortable or tired or just frustrated you are. You go, hey, this is what I originally committed to doing. This is something that I already know is aligned with what I want because I took that time to really assess. Now I'm just going to do it and put numbers on the board.
Yeah, I was just thinking about David Goggins again for some reason. I know we were talking about
I had a phase where I was watching videos of him for a long time. And it's interesting because I think it's great to give credit to a lot of the people that you look up to. Like, I'd say in the business aspect, like Jocko Willink's Echelon Front, I have a friend of mine named Jay who's been an awesome mentor in my life. He was in the Navy. And anyone that's served in the military, I respect a ton because I feel like if I wasn't doing this, I would 100% be in the military. But the problem is I like thinking about laws that are important to live by.
Yeah.
And then again, like that's where it comes into knowing, hey, I perform and act this way because I took the time to assess, does this actually make sense? Does it get me to what I want? Yeah. Yes. I know that like I'm so aligned with my soul purpose to where like anything that's outside of this exact lane is not it. There's other things that really intrigue me that I'd be like, hey, this is awesome. Hey, I respect the hell out of this. And so while there are some interests of mine, I know that I wouldn't be able to go in those lanes because I have this one. And because I've found it and it's taken me so long to get to this point.
Yeah. An interesting Goggins line out of his book, Can't Hurt Me. Don't quote me on the actual number, but I think it was like when you feel like you're completely depleted, like physically, I think you're still about 40%.
Yeah. I read the book, but I've heard plenty of reviews.
Isn't that interesting though? And the emotions come in, we begin to believe these things about ourselves. Like in our body is capable of so much more. And I think of the word extreme, and I think of everything that you're doing, and I put it in that context. Like
so, and again, like I think David owns the word extreme. In my eyes,
Jocko might hunt it.
Well, like I think
extreme ownership is Jocko, right? Extreme, okay, that's where I got that.
But when it comes to like examples
being an
of living,
extreme, David Goggins is fucking extreme. Of course,
so many people would say, "Hey, that's extreme in the unhealthy way." Most people look up to David that are familiar with him. I certainly do, and I think all the stuff he does, like I'd rather die at 45 or whatever age, living the most intense, badass life and setting an example for what's possible than just not running with a broken foot and doing what's maybe smart. That's why I'm that guy. But I don't claim to be extreme because it's like, hey, that's an example of someone that really embodies that. I know I'm not that. I strive to be it for sure.
So how does let's look at the other areas on site. I know we've been talking about the business and the the approach through the little actions and the disciplines and stuff. But I know we talked about how this can turn them into a better human being through communication, family, relationships, all that. How's that piece come into play?
So we have a lot of assessments on how you're showing up. One, as a businessman as a whole. So we have a document called Assessing Your True Power as a Businessman. Okay. And this goes into all the different abilities that are important to be what I, again, consider a strong, honorable, and high-value businessman. Going from being able to acquire profit, to effectively lead your teams, to create and execute systems, to dialing in your tax strategy, all these different areas that are super important. We have these assessments that allow you to look at, all right, how am I actually showing up on a scale of 1 to 4? We have full breakdowns of what a level 1 looks like for each ability and what a level 4 looks like. So now you're actually able to recognize, oh shoot, I really need to improve this area that maybe I thought was not a big problem, but I can see how it can be really optimized to be in my favor. And all these things impact the other areas of your life. So it's not like just, it's like for me, I need to have that daily outlet to release rage, stress, or even just feel good about myself physically in order for me to be able to speak with my mother and be happy and be calm. Because if I don't work out for more than 2 days, then I just get antsy, I'm very frustrated.
Yeah.
And so then that category of health and fitness, which we just call fuel, that 100% affects not only the family aspect, which we call connection, but also business. So, but also with business, if you're not making any money and you're stressed about your finances, how are you going to be present as a husband or as a father when you're going, hey, I cannot pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
In one area can affect the other areas.
They will.
Yeah. Like what you're talking about reminds me of like grounding yourself, like how you're grounding yourself in the physicality piece to unleash some of that. Like it reminds me also of like grounding yourself through meditation, gratefulness. I mean, like there's so many different forms. Even the cold shower could be an example, but how are you going to align yourself with your vision? It's like, what am I seeking to do? Whether it's family, relationships, or physical growth, business, sales, whatever, how are you going to ground yourself into that action and be the best you can be showing up? Like that's what I'm thinking of when you're saying all this. And I love how you do that with the physical piece too, you know, and it definitely translates into all these other areas for sure.
And so, for example, in the business aspect, because that was my background, was advertising and marketing for small businesses. And so while I have a long ways to go with what I'm trying to do with my business, I'm super excited because I've kind of been in this writer's mode. So I've been in basically the role of author for the past 9 months. Well, again, I've been still taking gentlemen through this program, but haven't actually pushed it hard with marketing. And I'm super excited to, because that's what I used to do. And now I can tap into that again, which I'm super pumped for. But also this time, now I'm having a product that I'm like, hey, this is actually one of the best programs out there. How do I know that? Because I've taken that much time to actually do that and perfect it. But then two, I've had other guys perfect it with me. And that's something that we make known pretty strong, is this isn't just one man's path to progress or something that was just created in one day. This has taken a long time, and it's been, for me, being around so many intelligent and just awesome elite businessmen that I consider to be, you know, those prime examples. But it's not always been the guys that, hey, these are what they're all living these areas perfectly. It's also sometimes like, hey, here's a guy that makes a ton of money, but hey, this area is fucked. Whether that's morals or his family life or health, like any of those areas that I realize, hey, yeah, these principles are important that he lives by, but I see how this clearly isn't the path, because look at how it's affecting these other areas. So maybe there is something I can take from this, but overall, everything they say can't just be taken as, you know,
you gotta be conscious.
Concrete. And so, it's been a lot of that time for a lot of guys to help me perfect this process.
And good things take time, and good things take
and it will
community.
Always be improved. It's always going to be an updated process. But now it's at the point where it's like, hey, this is volume 1. There will be a volume 2, but volume 1's fucking done.
Right. And creating that ripple effect, giving those people that community, and like the percentage of value added from each of them is so much more than one whole sum, one all, like, you know, and to build something magnificent and something abundant, it takes time and it takes people, right?
And that's the thing, it's a people game.
I
used to want to be this, you know, well-known public speaker.
I'm gonna do it on my own. I fucking got it.
Well, that which is also just like arrogance and
there's nothing wrong, I feel, with wanting to excel and have an individual, you know, persona and that personal brand, but it's like the message that you're portraying and like what your intention behind it is, right? Is my intention to serve?
I was woken up to, hey, my, like, I don't even know actually where I came up with I'm here to help set the tone for the next generation. That's just always been
I
with me
love
since
that.
18.
That's sick.
I wish I knew exactly where that came
Here
from,
to set
but
the tone for the next generation.
yeah.
That's dope.
But there certainly were times where that ego, and I don't even say that in a bad way, because yeah, we all want to be significant. That's a human desire, especially for businessmen, right?
Yeah.
We all want to build something, whether it came from you wanting to prove something wrong, someone wrong, or
Yeah.
you just realize, hey, like I want to actually build something, prove something to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Those are all great things. But there also comes that aspect of, being a man for others. My mom, for my birthday, gave me a card, and I forgot the exact quote, but it said something about basically not striving to be the most important person, but rather the person that changes the most lives. And that was like a nice little read, because it's like, okay, yeah, that is important, and sometimes you have to be reminded of that.
Legacy, baby. What
Yeah.
are we leaving the world? I love set the tone for the next generation.
Mhm.
That's dope. Like, how are we impacting the next generation, the people that are what are we gonna be remembered for?
Yeah, and that's where also help set the tone. And so meaning
Yeah.
we, everyone part of
Yeah,
this.
collectively. Right?
Yes. So whether
Yeah.
you're a client, whether you're
Mhm.
a team member, or just someone that
Mhm.
supports us on the outside, that's where the collective we comes into picture. But then
Mhm.
also help. We're not,
we're not alone, brother.
we're
Yeah.
not just the people saying, hey, we're going to save the world and take over, right?
Yeah.
We're people going, hey, we have these tools, and we have right now this specific demographic.
Yeah.
If it expands down the road, great. This is still useful stuff for anyone.
Yeah.
But I just know that, hey, I'm going to have the biggest dent in the world. Actually focus on the people that I truly know and can relate to, and really serve at the highest level.
Yep. I love that. What can I do to serve at my highest level? What's
Yeah.
my gift? We all have one, right? I love the value, like you can grow in all these different areas, but you kind of find that thing, that niche, that little pocket of influence that you have. And when you spot that and run with it, it's exciting. I think you've spotted
beautiful
yours,
thing.
brother.
Oh,
Look at
100%.
Yeah, no, you have, man.
But also, I've doubled down and finally removed any sort of, whether it's doubt or like
Oh, fuck doubt.
possible well, doubt in the sense of like, hey, saying specifically businessmen, that turns away. What if there's some awesome women that I want to work with?
Yeah.
Or what if there's people that don't identify as business
Doubt doesn't
men?
do anything for you. At the end of the day, what does doubt do for us,
Well,
right? I mean,
so that's actually where I have a different perspective than I used to with
Okay.
doubt and with haters, right? Because I took a lot of time. I pay attention to a lot of people. So that's why I'm familiar with a lot of the well-known speakers, or just, I don't consider like I don't want to give Jocko or David the title of speaker, right? They're so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of time to look at videos on like why someone doesn't like a certain person, or 10 things wrong about this person that what some people would view as maybe haters. It's just positive criticism, and that's where if you watch how someone is talking about someone and they come across as, whether it's a comedian, meaning like those internet commentators that really don't have any real ground, but rather just trying to make fun of someone for content. It's like, okay, I'm not going to really take all of this information as like accurate of what I think is something that's important to hear.
Right.
But most of the time, and I say most of the time because like, okay, if someone really doesn't like someone, why is that? I was paying attention to a post that this guy in my space posted on a story today. And while the comment of, talking about their fat son, obviously is like, okay, you're talking about some kid's son for being fat, like you're just some internet troll. So that aspect of the conversation that this person posted was like, okay, that takes away the validity of you're someone that I should listen to. But they did have a couple points that did make sense for me to go like, oh, that actually like is something to maybe like pay attention to, that they address this. And that's something that I think is, at least I know I want to take a different approach than I think most people, is like instantly having a shield up, like what a lot of people feel like they have to do when they have, the hate online or trolls, whatever you call it, versus actually being able to be humble and be like, okay, where are you coming from with that? Let's actually address that. Oh, you know what? I actually see where you're coming from. I agree. Maybe this is something that I should improve. I think Jocko is a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I think Jocko is just a humble and it comes from a place of just like being able to always be improving, but also that's where his extreme ownership comes in, always wanting to improve his ability to lead, and that everything's his fault. Like that aligns with that motto.
Seeking value from everybody and everything, like you're talking about with that guy, like there's still something you can take away there, right? And like I look at criticism too, like until recently I haven't done this, but the new people I've been around recently have opened me up to the mindset of like, how can we welcome criticism into our lives in a healthy fashion? How can we seek this, just to seek that meta improvement, like space of, questioning the process and like how I'm currently moving through life. Is there a better way? Is there a way to improve, and seeking that out? God, yeah, because I used to really dislike being judged or said that I wasn't doing something right or being criticized, right? But there's so much value in that. That's where like how you receive it, right? Yeah,
this whole past say like 6 months specifically, I purposely wanted to have men go through my program so I could get that criticism, like firsthand, like from guys actually going through this process, and really hear those things that maybe I thought this thing was so good, but then I find out, oh, this doesn't actually serve my clients the way that it is intended to, or like, hey, I thought this was so good for a marketing piece or something, but then they say, hey, this doesn't really speak to my pain points. And while sometimes those, critiques can be heavy, hits, and but that's where the ego comes in. All right, am I like we have like Gary Vee, for example. He's just the first person that comes to mind when they say like, I like losing and all this stuff. I disagree. I like improvement. So if it requires me to have a hit to my ego or a fail that enables me to take one step forward, then yes, I want that. But I don't want to lose. Like a lot of these people that are, big dogs in the space, they sometimes just say stuff that is aligned to what most people want to hear that makes them feel good. But I'm the guy that's on the opposite end of, hey, I'm saying the stuff that you don't want to hear, which is going to mean that this isn't as popular as what other people are saying.
What you want.
But again, this serves the people that I'm serving.
Right. And if they're ready to receive it, right? Yeah. Well, that's amazing, brother. I think we're creeping up a little bit towards the end. So tell us about, I know we learned a lot about Gravel the Castle, the message, and love what you're doing. And tell them where they can find that, or on social media, any site they can check out, any videos.
Yeah, well, graveltocastle.com is where it's our main website. So that's where I keep all the most up-to-date information. But right now, our funnel, which is where we drive traffic to get people to hear our message and be introduced to this path, onlyforbusinessmen.com. And so those are places where you can actually do your research. Like we'll have a bunch of different interviews or just our full mission statement and all of our core values. So you can actually get a full feel along with testimonials, right? For what we truly are trying to accomplish and how it's been able to have an impact in men's lives so far. And ultimately how you can be part of this journey to helping set the tone for the next generation, right? I am super excited again, like to really push this out now, because I've taken that time that when you've taken time to really
I know you've taken time. I just met you.
I've always been a hardworking person, but now it's like I've done the honest work that is irrefutable. It's like I've done the in the shadows work. Like I have a fucking binder that's like this thick of just things that I've typed up, and it's been such a painful process. It's been very depressing many times. It's been darkness and just pain. Like those are just big words that are 100% accurate about my journey. But I've done that work. I've showed up. I've stopped being emotional. And again, emotional would mean, oh, I'm not motivated. I'm just going to take a step back. Like, I've taken plenty of steps back, but not because of, Like, I'm not going to do the work that I know I need to do. It's no, I'm fucking ruthlessly committed and I show up the way I need to.
Yeah.
And again, I do this because I know I have to be an example. I'm not that guy that is David Goggins, right? That is, perfect, right? Like, it's funny because, like, obviously, he claims to be perfect, but like the guy that is able to do anything, right? Like, I certainly show up in my life telling myself that, and I do what I believe I can.
Yeah.
I just know, like, I haven't earned what I believe to be that title of what, a lot of these, like David Goggins is, right? Like, but I do that work on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And I don't back down.
Like, you can clearly tell that you're very engaged and that you've created something beautiful and that it's passionate, and like, there's no doubt you're going to create a ripple. I'm all in on it. I mean, and just looking at what you've created with this core group of people and how that message now is just ready to be pushed out to the world, it's really exciting. Gravelthecastle.com. What was the other one?
Gravelthecastle.com. That's the home page. And then myself on social media, the Ken Conklin, THE Ken Conklin. That's where you can listen to me personally. But again, so like, I think it's easy for someone to connect with a person to then hear a movement. Like Russell Brunson, who's the founder of ClickFunnels, that's what he always does is, he's kind of that spokesperson, just like myself. But it's also important to, reaffirm that, this isn't like my show. While I do love speaking on stages, I have only spoken on a few in the past. Obviously, because of the pandemic, there's not been many stages recently. But like, that's stuff that I get excited for. And it's like, I do view that as an accomplishment. Oh, look, I'm able to speak to these people, and there's a demand to have me, this guy that of all the fucking public speakers out in the world. It's like, when I have an opportunity to speak and share a message, it's like, wow, that makes me feel awesome. But again, so there's that personal feeding of that significant factor of, hey, I'm doing something that matters. We all have that. But then there's also the soul aspect of, hey, I'm doing my soul's work. I'm doing my life's work that I'm put on this earth for. And we all have that. Not all of us need to be in the spotlight. In fact, that's even one of our core values too, is, all of these things that we teach and have people be able to do, where in your life are you able to put them? Because we all are able to utilize these tools and step up to the plate and be that leader that we need to be. But maybe you don't have a team that you lead. Maybe you're just sole proprietor, you're self-employed, or maybe you're just not maybe just like a salesperson, right? So you're not even going to have to worry about building a real company. You're able to just do your thing where you're still in control of your finances. You're still the guy that has to show up.
And you can tailor it to you.
Yeah, or maybe you're not married or you don't have kids. Cool. You can still be that person that is able to show up more for the people who do need you. And if you don't have those people right now, well, then that's where you are a selfish man right now. Go volunteer. Go do something that does put some responsibility on you.
Serve.
Again, I'm that 24-year-old who's not yet married, not yet having kids, and I'm not volunteering all the time. I'm doing some stuff here and there. But like, I'm recognizing where I can show up more and be that man for others. And that's what I want everyone that's watching this video or listening to this podcast to be able to do, is look at where they can show up more and recognize that, hey, if I actually don't think I can show up yet, but I know that I want to do so, well, then that's where we come in the picture.
That's beautiful. I think you actually led into my final piece, which is, what's your message to leave the TRU-U audience with? And it seems like, we can ask it again, but you left a powerful message there as it is. But what would be like we dropped a lot of nuggets, a lot of good stuff on this podcast, but what would be like an overall broad message to our TRU-U audience? Like, what would you like to leave people with here, just to take something away from this?
Yeah, demand more. Demand more from yourself. Demand more from the impact, the reward, the maybe financial compensation. Demand more in every area of your life. And what that essentially means is we all have that ability to rise in each of those areas, right? It's not like anyone's ever maxed out with their fitness and with being a father, with being a husband, with creating a dent in their community, right? There's all these different areas that you can be excelling at, but you can also recognize, hey, there's more that you can do. And most of the time, when you're having these other areas be quite, at like a peak level, sometimes you let those other areas slip. And if you're not having that happen, well, maybe you're not doing enough. Maybe you have your standards much lower than they really should be. And that's where the demand more comes in. Demand more from yourself. Or, hey, you're doing all the work, but you're not getting that result you're looking for, whether it's in your business. Hey, I'm working my ass off, but I'm not able to pay my mortgage. Or, hey, I'm trying to connect with my wife, but I just can't get her to see what I see or to accept me for who I am and love the parts that are actually very good. Whatever area that is, right? Demand the thing that you truly do want and that you're capable of. Demand that you become that guy who's able to actually step up to that plate. Expect nothing less. And for so many time periods in my life, it's just funny, this is how long I've been in that headspace, right?
Yeah.
It's right. I have time periods as an adult.
Yeah. Pre-facial hair, post-facial.
yeah. But yeah, I think everyone can step up to that plate and recognize where there's so much more that they can be doing. And in times where I maybe thought I'd be, doing really well in other areas, I just now have a process for assessing like what I'm actually doing to where my outside environment, no matter where it is, doesn't make me go, hey, I'm actually doing great compared to these people. That's not even a part of the conversation. It's always that assessment of, one, how am I showing up today compared to yesterday? But then two, what do I want for the long term? I think everyone can ask themselves, how can they demand more for themselves in all those areas in the most beautiful, positive, and uplifting ways for everyone around them. That demand word seems strong, and some people may have a negative, thought that comes to mind, but recognize how, demand more can be the most positive thing for you, and then start doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it, brother. Well, this has been great. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks. We gotta redo that.
There we go. We gotta get that time. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're excited to do more of these, and check out Gravel to Castle by going to www.gravel2castle.com and searching the Ken Conklin for this man's content. We appreciate you. Peace.
Boom.